Angie asks, what do you think is the biggest mistake that salespeople make?
I've said it before in countless different contexts. I think that the biggest mistake that most salespeople make, or that every salespeople make, or the biggest mistake that's made by salespeople is the complete neglect of setting a target. I think that to me is without question the biggest foundational thing that a person has to do if they want to get anywhere. Because what's the incentive? If you're not, understand what sales is. Like, people really have to understand what sales is. It's, you're going out there, and if you're actively engaged in the sales process, meaning you don't have a marketing structure on the back end with your company that looks after the majority of the sorting and qualifying for you, and you have to go from start to finish, from prospecting right to the close, or anywhere in between that. Doesn't matter. If you're involved in the sales process, it's a grueling task. It's a get the shit kicked out of you every single day by people who probably don't want to hear from you, who don't like salespeople. I mean, go on and on and on and on. The only way that a person is going to get themselves to be able to take the action they need to take in that is by having the incentive. That's human motivation 101. I don't understand, and I hate even bringing up the topic of goals, because so many people just turn off when it comes to that, because they've, I think I mentioned this last time, they've been to the seminars, they've heard the spiel about, writing your goals out and all that stuff, and they've tried it, and it hasn't really done anything for them, and so it's just become this additional point of disappointment and another bludgeon to beat themselves over the head with, where they've failed to follow through on it. And I see that a lot. And some of you will admit it, some of you won't, but that's what you're struggling with. And everybody's looking for all these different secrets, and this is the secret. We are target focused mechanisms, or our system, our internal guidance system is a target focused mechanism. And without us setting some specific intentional goal, it by default is going to have its own goals. And the default mode of every single person on this planet without a goal is to take the path of least resistance in everything. That's it. And so, the other day I was having a discussion with somebody about why it is that salespeople, entrepreneurs, anybody really, get themselves neck deep in debt. And I was saying to them, I said, it's so antithetical to success. If you made a goal that you wanted to make $500,000 a year in sales, and there's so many different paths as far as commission sales, especially if you don't have a base salary, you're 100% commission. Real estate, insurance, there's tons of different spaces in which that's the case. And as you're learning the game, and as you're filling up your pipeline and planting all these seeds and doing all this uphill battle work at the beginning, you have got to understand that you got to buy yourself the time to do this. And there's so many people who look at sales and think, I can make a fortune at this because I see the value in this product, therefore I'm going to be able to turn around and make a fortune. And the problem is the market doesn't see it that way. There's only a small percentage of people who will even listen to you, never mind buy your product or service when you're first engaging with them. It takes time to turn those people into something over time and get them to become customers. So the challenge that we were talking about is, why would they do this? If you sat down and you made a goal that you wanted to make, $500,000 a year, $1 million, whatever it is, simple business sense says you've got to be smart with your money and not get into debt, not buy useless, depreciating liabilities that don't contribute to your success. That's how you would operate in a business. And so many salespeople don't function in that way. They get themselves into debt, and it makes their life a living hell. To me, there's nothing worse than having to sell because you've got to put food on the table. Some people can function really well in that environment, but I think that most people can't. And I think that a lot of people are giving themselves a major disadvantage by the fact that they're doing that to themselves, because I think that one of the most important attitudes to have when you're actually engaging in sales and you're face to face with a prospect is to be able to say to yourself, I don't need the business. because you want to come in there with posture. You want to come in there with the ability to ask the questions you need to ask and say the things that you need to say, have the tough conversations and all that stuff. And if you need the sale, to the scope that you need the sale, that sale is the extent to which you are going to wimp out on saying what it is you need to say and being able to do the things you know you need to do. So debt is a complete enemy of this. And I know that, people in real estate, you can't be showing up in a beater car to listings or to showings. I understand that. But there's so many other things where, listen, here's the thing. If I see an entrepreneur or salesperson, anybody like that, anybody who is living beyond their means, they're driving new cars that they don't need, far more than what they need. They have a house that's more than what they need. They have all these toys that are far more than what they need. And if you get to look into their finances, they're so deep in consumer debt, funding these depreciating liabilities. All that tells me is your single primary goal is you want the acceptance and approval of your friends, of your peer group, and that's it. Because if you didn't care about that, you wouldn't do these things. And so this is why goals are so important. So that ties back into what I was just talking about how if we don't have clearly laid out intentional goals that we've set for ourselves that are future directed, meaning you're gonna have to sacrifice today for the sake of tomorrow, then you are inevitably going to do this thing where you sacrifice tomorrow for the sake of the enjoyment of today, which is all debt is. And that's the default mode of every single human being. I don't care how incredible of a performer they are. If they lost sight of their vision in every single area in which they lose sight of their vision in their life, that's exactly what happens. They sacrifice the future for the sake of today. So, the most important thing that a salesperson can do is get absolutely 100% locked on to a target, having a properly set goal. I don't mean writing it down on a card and it ends up in your night table stand. I mean, going through the process. I've talked about this last time. Seeing it in your imagination, living it out, practicing it, acting as if in practical terms and in the sense of, if you're driving places, you're imagining it. Anytime you can do that stuff, that's the thing that drives that deeper. And the more emotional that experience becomes, as far as the imagining of your goal, the more real it becomes, and the more you're going to want it. That's how you're going to drive that appetite, right? You've got to stir that up inside. You have it in you, but if you're not locked onto that, if you're locked onto, I got to put on this show for my friends and family or my peer group, I got to keep up with them, then there's certain actions that goal requires that is antithetical to the long-term success in your sales career, in your business career, whatever it is. Because, you're going to spend money on stuff you don't need, things that aren't going to benefit you at all, and all that does is cost you the ability to buy yourself the time to plant the seeds and plant those seeds correctly. Because the biggest thing, when people are desperate to make a sale, that desperation is so repulsive. And you know it. You're a prospect. You're not just a salesperson. You deal with salespeople all the day. Every time you deal with somebody who they seem to be desperate to want your money, do you want anything to do with that? Nobody does. So the biggest mistake that people make is neglecting to actually do this. And I think one of the biggest reasons, again, is, and I'm going to repeat myself on this. I'm going to repeat myself on a lot of these things because you have to hear this over and over again. I'm the type of guy that when I hear something that hits me, when I read a book that hits me, I will literally read that book over and over and over and over again. I'll listen to the audiobook every chance I get, over and over and over again, to get this stuff internalized. Most people can't just pick up one book, read it once. You get that feeling of, you feel the exhilaration of hearing a new principle and hearing something that you know is true, and then putting it down and thinking it's going to stick. It's not going to stick. That's just the uncovering of this treasure underneath the surface. You've got to continue to pound it in there, internalize it, wrestle with that concept until it becomes a part of your actual the way that you live your life. It's all good to talk about that we need goals and that we need all these things, and everybody gives lip service to it. But when you look at what's going on practically, it's the complete opposite. What you and I do is proved, what we believe is proved by what we do. That's one of my favorite quotes. It's so true. What we are doing is what the evidence is of what our actual goals are. So look at those actions and see how they measure up. And here's the thing. Don't beat the crap out of yourself over this stuff. Too many people, one of the best lessons that I've ever learned is that our behavior does not equate to identity. So when we're screwing up in these areas, it's so easy for us, for some reason, I think it's old school thinking, that's the sort of person that I am. And the reality is it's not. That's only indicative of the perspective you have and the goals that you have. Right? Those unconscious, you didn't go out there and decide, I want to make my biggest thing to be accepted by my peer group. Nobody makes that. Very few people make that to be their default goal intentionally. That's something that happens unintentionally, unconsciously. But it's incredibly costly. And so when we start behaving in these ways, making stupid decisions because we are doing the thing that it takes to succeed at this goal that we've unintentionally, unconsciously set, then we kick the crap out of ourselves and think that's just the sort of person I am. It's not. It's indicative of this thing where we can change how we see things, change our perspective, and change our goals, then everything else is going to change because of that. That's job number one. Having that target is the only thing that is going to get you to take the action you need to have. It's the only thing that's going to give you the courage to do it. It's incentive. Incentive is everything. That's all a goal is becoming hyper aware of what the incentive is to pay the price that you are being called to pay in whatever capacity that is. I can tell you right now, every time that I've given up on something, it's because I've lost sight of that vision, or I started it without really having a clear-cut vision, knowing I should do this. Running is one thing. I suck at that so bad. I completely suck at it because I hate it. But I get to this place where I'm sick and tired of feeling like crap and tired and not having the energy because I'm not nearly as active as I should be. And so I go after it for a while. It feels good. But then other things get in the way, and then I fall out of it because I never started it off with some clear-cut goal. It was just, I got to do this. I'm going to do this because I know I have to do it. That is just not good enough for any of us. And that's the same with sales. So many people are running around operating with the mindset, I'm going to do this because I have to do this. And yet it never provides the fuel that they need to see the thing through long term, especially when you're looking at something like sales, where so much of it is a 90, 120, 180 day cycles where you have to put in a shit ton of work up front to plant the seeds, get activity happening, and then come out the other end of that 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road and look back at what you did and then start to reap the benefits. It's not an immediate thing. And so this is why people quit. They don't have a goal that compels them. And again, like I've said before, part of that is they're afraid to set the goals because they don't want to tee themselves up for disappointment. And so belief, the desire, having the appetite, having the belief that you can do it, these are two things that have to be worked on simultaneously. And it all goes back to what I talked about last time and what I've talked about over and over again, what I'm going to talk about over and over again, is having a good system, having a good structure, knowing how to say what you need to say and when you need to say it, and how to direct the entire sales interaction and control that thing the right way, and practicing that and internalizing it, because when you practice it, it becomes real to you that you can actually do it and I'm going to be able to succeed at this. And then you learn how to handle these situations, and then you start to see it actually play out in your real life, day-to-day selling, and that just takes this thing and makes it skyrocket. So get clear on what you want, because if you don't, you may as well just forget it. You may as well just give up and go do something else, because you will give up and do something else. You may not throw in the towel and actually do that, but you will intellectually, mentally, physically, you'll just coast. And that is not any way for anybody to live life in a way that's going to make them happy. I believe that that's something that is so foundational to our own inner peace and our capacity to feel good about ourselves is creative, productive accomplishment on an ongoing basis. stopping and just riding things out because it's the easy thing to do. Doing the easy thing sucks. I've done it, you've done it, we've all done it, but it's just like there's all these choices that we face every single day. The easy road that produces immediate short-term benefits that we like, but always comes with the long-term cost. There's so many of these that we face on a day-to-day basis, and that's one of them, where we take the short-term benefit, but it comes at a long-term cost. So got to have a goal, got to be focused on it, got to internalize it, got to practice it, got to live it out in your imagination, got to do everything you can to make that so real and make yourself so hungry and make it so that you can believe in it. Part of that is having a system. And that's why I've put a lot of this together, is to give you the insights that have helped me and that have helped countless other people in turning themselves into effective communicators and good salespeople. Because that's all it is. Good sales, being a truly good and honest salesperson, is about being able to communicate to another person in a way that compels them to take action, as long as you're dealing with somebody who actually needs to be taking action, right? It goes back to that whole qualifying thing. We talked about that, talk about it later. Get clear on what it is that you want, and you will see a level of courage come out of you that you never even thought possible. So get clear on that. Have a system. Practice. See you next time. Lacking confidence sucks, and so does failing at sales. Years ago, I learned a handful of principles that, when applied, radically altered my results and my ability to influence people. I'm freely sharing what I've learned and applied with anybody that's serious about getting really good at selling. You're here right now, so you obviously want to get good. Click the link below to secure your free lifetime access to this ongoing comprehensive training. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. One, I know from experience that if I do something that contributes to the prosperity of another, I can't help but prosper in turn myself. So I'm not doing this because I'm some selfless saint. I know I'll get back what I put out there. Number two, I care about the profession of selling. I think it's a crucial skill to have. In these economic times where people are struggling for a job, if someone endeavors to become exceptionally skilled at selling, they can write their own paycheck and they'll never have to fight for an income. If you get really good at this, and I believe that anybody can, you'll have people hunting you down non-stop. I guarantee that. So, click the link below and let's get you into the top 10% where all the opportunity and fun is. I'll see you there. Click the link. Do it now. What do I have to do? What do I have to do? What do I have to do, a dance? I mean, I am sick of wearing this. I want to get out of here, but I'm still sitting here because I know you're sitting here watching this for some reason. Click the link. Okay, that's it. I'm shutting it down right now.